Fourth meeting of the Mayor and City Council will come to order. Warren Litchfield is not with us tonight, so if everybody would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Fred Smalls.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Volume's up too much. Hold on a minute here. Good, Kevin? All right. Please note, if you wish to be heard at this meeting, please sign the speaker list provided on the table at the side of the council chamber to my right. I reserve the right to limit the amount of time each speaker has for each agenda item. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak for each agenda item tonight. Agenda item number 4, call the roll, Ms. Rao.
Mr. DeWalt?
Here.
Mr. Sidnor?
Here.
Ms. Nicholas?
Here.
Mr. Smalls?
Here.
President Les?
Here, I'll note that the mayor will not be with us tonight. He's feeling a bit under the weather, and hopefully he'll be back to normal later this week. Move to agenda item number 5, approval of minutes of the third meeting of December 11th. I'll entertain a motion.
Put a motion to approve the minutes, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Sidnor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Nicholas. Call the roll, Ms. Rao. Excuse me, any discussion? Call the roll, Ms. Rao.
Mr. Sidnor?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
Mr. DeWalt?
Yes.
Mr. Smalls?
I vote yes.
President Les?
Yes, thank you. Move to agenda item number 6, approval of minutes of the work session on January 3rd, 2018. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Nicholas. Do I have a second?
A second, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Sidnor. Any discussion? Call the roll, Ms. Rao.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
Mr. Sidnor?
Yes.
Mr. DeWalt?
Yes.
Mr. Smalls?
I vote yes.
President Les?
Yes. Move to agenda item number 7, report of the mayor and city council. Tonight we will start with Mr. Smalls.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be very brief. Recent incidents here in the city has heightened my awareness and concern regarding fire safety in our businesses and our residents. And with that, I've been talking with our city administrator, members of the council, and other members of our senior staff, as well as members of both fire department and our rescue squad, and us working together to do some kind of a community awareness program, if you will, to just raise the awareness of fire safety and the importance of it, and particularly focusing on smoke detectors and making sure that adequate smoke detectors are present in our homes and that they are in proper working order. So I just ask folks to stay tuned. We'll be developing something and getting something out very soon regarding that effort. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Smalls. Move now to Mr. DeWalt.
I'd like to start off by congratulating Melanie Dvorak, who is one of my neighbors. She had 43 years in a newspaper business. She was an editor, a journalist. In the leader, this last leader, the lady who took her place in the Old Town Laurel segment is Mary Sullivan. And she wrote Melanie's dedication to this neighborhood and this newspaper have made our community a better place to live, and I know I am not alone in my gratitude to her for that. Thank you, Melanie, and congratulations. I had the honor and privilege to meet Mary's husband, Matt, at our first Old Town Epiphany party on Saturday night at Karen and Ken's house, my neighbors across the street. And Matt told me they have 4 daughters, who I see them constantly walking the neighborhood and sitting on their porch and everything like that. And he says every night before his 4 daughters go to bed, they say a prayer for Mr. Marcus. And if people don't know who that is, that's Marcus Colbert. And I know Marcus is still in those 4 young girls' hearts, and he'll always be in our hearts. The other thing I want to recognize is yesterday was National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. Thank all the police officers and the members of the Laurel FOP Lodge 11 that keep me safe and our citizens safe every single day. Bob Altoff, who was a major with his police department and was a major factor in our community policing unit, is now chief of police at Brentwood. He had the honor of being at in Annapolis with Governor Hogan and Lieutenant Governor Rutherford, and they presented Bob with the proclamation of National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. And that's a great honor for Bob, and I know he's very proud of that. I do have some things I want to bring up. I don't get time to, unless I see my constituents individually, but I do have 6 items that I've been working on, and I'd like to at least tell my constituents that they are what they've talked to me about in the last year and a half. I'm at least trying to introduce some of these ideas and trying to get some leeway into them. The first one is our Laurel City retirees. There's 80 retirees and there's 12 spouses or family members in the retirement system right now. The last cost of living, I say cost of living, but it's called a market adjustment, was 1996, which is 22 years ago. This year, federal employees are going to get a 1.9%, Social Security is going to get a 2%, and because of the collective bargaining of the FOP, they're going to get all the city workers are going to get a 2.5%. I would like to see the city adopt where Laurel retirees will be afforded that same benefit in getting a COLA or market adjustment every July 1. The other issue is going to be the alleys that there's a lot of them in corporate city. The ruts, the holes, they cause standing water. Standing water creates mosquitoes, bugs, rodents, and we've even had report of rats. It's very hard getting access through some of these alleys. In the dry months during the summer, it creates a lot of dust, which comes into your home and into the homeowner's windows. The bad thing about it is that if citizen homeowners report it, it depends on who they talk to as far as the ownership of these alleys, and it creates confusion. One group of homeowners even were told to get a petition, and everybody signed it. I think that the city should maintain these alleys, and they should use, if you've ever been down Peggy's Alley, you would see the model alley that I would like to see all alleys take after. This would not only create a good feeling for the city if they ever did have to use it for access or egress in and out of the city, but in the event of emergency, just like Mr. Smalls was talking about these devastating fires that are caused during this cold weather, at least we would know we were able to get emergency equipment into those alleys. My next subject is our seniors, and a lot of it has to do with speed and safety on Main Street. Right now, there's a really, really nice sign that Public Works has put up going eastbound just before 4th Street, and it tells you how fast you're going. You could tell it's definitely impacting the speed coming eastbound, because if you try to pull out onto 4th Street onto Main Street, the traffic goes very, very slow now because that signal alerts them. I would like to see another one one of those signals going westbound about 3 or 4 poles before the Selborne House where the seniors live, and that would alert drivers and have them slow down just before the crosswalk where our seniors go. The other things I would like to have for the seniors, that we have a great transportation program which picks seniors up to go to the store, to go to doctor's appointments, but it does cost the city, the seniors $30 per year. I looked at the budget and it generated about $2,100. It would be nice to waive this $30 fee and provide free transportation to get our seniors the transportation they need. I would also like to see transportation provided for our seniors during any general election or in any election that is held in the city. Another safety issue I would like to see, our speed cameras generate a lot of money. Some of the uses for them is fixing sidewalks as well as putting new sidewalks in areas that never existed before, and this all involves safety. Yet we have 2 bridges along the Patuxent River path that get moldy because of lack of sun and a high concentration of moisture. A lot of people use those paths for exercise, walking, and the beautiful view that it creates along the Patuxent River. One of my neighbors slipped on one of those bridges and she broke her wrist. She's gone through 2 painful operations and she's still going through physical therapy and trying to recover. I would like to see more done to keep those bridges safe and viable for the passage of people going over them so that that can be prevented in the future. I always am in support of maintaining a great relationship with our brothers and sisters of the Laurel Volunteer Rescue Squad, Laurel Volunteer Fire Department, and members of Laurel FOP Lodge 11. Those are the 3 emergency services that consist in the city of Laurel. I would like to see a certain percentage of the speed camera monies to help our first responders. The police get a lot of funding from the speed cameras. I would also like to see a certain percentage of this speed camera money go to the Laurel Volunteer Rescue Squad and the Laurel Volunteer Fire Department to purchase state-of-the-art equipment to assist in caring for all of our citizens when they need it. My last item is this holiday season I volunteered at the Pilate High School during Winter Haven. 32 homeless men and women were present to get out of the very cold weather. 2 things are needed to prevent homelessness, which I learned from Valerie. To provide some sort of shelter and some sort of income. I know Valerie, Ruth, Jenny have helped in the effort to get these homeless people income. Social Security income, whatever income they could possibly get them. The city has 3 complexes that participated in an affordable housing program. I checked all 3 of them out. Rent for a 1-bedroom apartment starts at $1,350 and goes up as high as $1,550 plus electric, water, and trash removal. This is not affordable housing for our homeless. We need to take a more aggressive approach to address homelessness, and I hope that can happen to where those numbers would drastically go down during the winter months as far as Winter Haven goes. To me, government transparency is the key to establishing 100% of public trust, and I am determined to gain that trust. I've already put a request in for possibly the next meeting on the speed camera monies. How much do we get from it? And I know a lot of people in this room probably have gotten one of those tickets. So at the next meeting, hopefully I can get that information and I can tell you how much we get, how much revenue we get from the speed cameras and exactly what it is used as far as public safety goes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeWalt. Mr. Sidnor?
Thank you, Mr. President. I had the opportunity on December 16th to co-host a Kwanzaa Learning Celebration with the seniors at Laurel Lake Apartments. Kwanzaa has 7 principles, and the principles we can use in Kwanzaa are our daily lives. So part of my platform that I was running was basically bring the community together. We have a very diverse community here in Laurel, but we need to get in the rooms and talk to one another. So that's what the Kwanzaa celebration was about. The mayor also attended, and it was very supportive. The citizens of Laurel Lakes was very excited to see the mayor there, show good leadership for our mayor coming in and showing some diversity in the city as well. Also on Monday, I had the opportunity to attend Annapolis with the controller, newly elected officials, to learn about how the state used the money and things of that nature. And it was a very good opportunity to meet the other new council members throughout the state of Maryland. That's conclude my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Sidnor. Ms. Nicholas.
Thank you. Hope everyone had a happy and safe holiday season. I would just like for us to continue to pray for the DeHaven family of the loss of the gentleman on yesterday that they found he was missing for some times, and they announced on the news that they had found him dead. So I just ask that we pray for his family. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nicholas. 12th of December, I attended Laurel Regional Hospital Foundation meeting, and I'll be attending another one tomorrow. On the 12/21, we attended the dedication of the University of Maryland Medical System Regional Hospital Center in Largo. Let's see, January 6th, I attended a Maryland Municipal League meeting in Annapolis. Earlier this week, I attended the Council of Governments Directors meeting and Patuxent River Commission meetings. On the 15th of January, starting at 11 a.m., we'll have a wreath laying in front of City Hall in recognition of the Martin Luther King Day of Service event, followed by 10 pre-authorized high school students going to Suits for Success for an afternoon of volunteering.
Mr. President,
Yes.
the wreath laying is going to be Friday, this Friday at 4
Oh, we
p.m.
moved it to Friday?
Well, the wreath laying is a
Oh, I'm
Friday.
sorry.
But then the other program is starting
On Monday.
at 11 on Monday.
11 on Monday, okay. So we've got one program at 4 p.m. on Friday, which is the wreath laying, which is the 12th. Correct, Ms. Rao?
Yes.
And then on the 15th, we'll have another program in front of City Hall. I think that's when there's going to be a choir singing, is that correct? Yes. Okay. And finally, I've got to wish my grandson, Aiden Michael McKnight, happy 8th birthday, because he watches me on television like a hawk. And I think that's all I've got. That's all I have. Great. Move now to agenda item number 9, general public hearing. I'll open the general public hearing at 7:18. I think no one signed up to speak for the general public hearing. Everybody's here to speak on 9. Is that correct? Just shake your head, yes, that's good. Okay. So is there anyone wishing to speak at the general public hearing? Seeing no one, I'll close the general public hearing at 7:19. Move to agenda item number 9. Second public hearing on ordinance number 1924, an ordinance of the mayor and city council approving map amendment application number 880 to amend the planned unit development plan for redevelopment of the Patuxent Golf Course into a residential community and providing an effective date. I've read the title into the record for the second reading. I will open the public hearing at 7:19. First person I have signed up to speak is Tony Drake. Tony, if you'd state your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. President, council members. My name is Tony Drake. I live at the Patuxent Glen Homes. I personally live on Creekview Drive. I'm here not so much to give testimony, but to make a small request. It says here that this is a public hearing with possible action. What I would ask...
Tony, let me correct you. It's not public action tonight.
No, I'm sorry, with possible action. Is
No
what it
action
says.
tonight.
All right,
Let me assure you, okay?
fine.
All right, Tony.
Because that kind of then guts my argument. Because what I wanted to ask is that any possible action or any action be postponed. We have a neighborhood meeting set up on the 16th, and we would like to have a chance to participate in that. Furthermore, our developer here has very graciously agreed to meet with our HOA on January the 29th. And we will be able to discuss any items that are of particular interest to our community. So again, I ask that any further hearings be postponed until after the 29th to give us a chance to meet and get this information between ourselves and the developer. I know that there was a meeting before and we had this, but in between was the holiday season. And lots of people, especially those with children, were otherwise occupied. And this was not necessarily at the top of their agenda. But now that that has passed and we're back to business as usual, again, I personally would like to ask that any possible action that you may take or consider be postponed and another hearing be postponed until after we've had a chance to meet on the 16th and the 29th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll take your advice under advisement. Thank you very much.
Mr. Les, could I please comment on that,
No.
please?
This is a public hearing. I'm going to hear the public.
Okay, all I did was ask a question. That's all you have to say, yes or no.
I just said no.
Okay.
Bill Shipp. State your name and address for the record, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. For the record, my name's Bill Shipp. I'm with O'Malley Miles here for the applicant. Our offices are in Calverton. I did want to kind of follow up on the previous speaker's comments. After the Planning Commission's hearing on this matter, there was a suggestion by the Planning Commission that the applicant try to reach out and have a community meeting, and that the City Council and Mayor's meeting be postponed until after. It was originally scheduled for Monday, the 8th. We submitted a letter in writing saying we requested a continuance based upon the suggestion of the Planning Commission. We have scheduled the meeting for the 16th, as you've heard. It's a community meeting that the residents, all the residents of the condos and the single families were invited to. Still can't hear? I'm sorry. So I'll try to speak closer to the mic.
Is that better?
Yes. So we sent out a mailing on Tuesday inviting all the residents of the condos and the singles to this meeting on the 16th. We have requested that the meeting be postponed with the mayor and the council to the 22nd, which I think is your next scheduled meeting. And that's our request to go on the 22nd. We are also going back to the single family HOA on the 29th, as was stated. But we are certainly willing and interested in going after the community when they invite us to, and we will continue to do that. We appreciate your consideration of the continuance request.
Thank you, Mr. Shipp. We'll take that under advisement. Move to a next person, Carrie Lawn, I believe. State your name and address for the record, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Carrie Lawn. I live at 14109 Greenview Drive in Laurel. This February, I will have been here for 30 years with my husband, Jim. I only came here to speak to say how opposed I am to the whole concept of this golf course being developed. I am a golfer. I purchased my home and my lot. I paid a premium to get the golf course view that I have. One of my biggest concerns in the whole issue is safety and also what it will do to the environment and to the land. We all know recently there was a fatal accident at the corner of Clubhouse and 197. I was coming down through Main Street back to 197 and crossed over at that light, and I could see the police flashing lights. but I had no idea what the issue was. From that point, once I crossed over and was on 197 southbound, it took me 1 hour to be able to turn around, go down Laurel Bowie, US 1, Cherry Hill, Cherry Road, to get back to my house. 1 hour in what is like 0.2 of a mile. So for that standpoint, I am very concerned from a safety standpoint. What if there was somebody in my community that had a heart attack or an emergency or a stroke and needed transportation, couldn't be transported? Secondly, my other issue is the environment. What will it do? When we purchased our house, we were told the golf course could never be built on because it was a floodplain. All of a sudden, 30 years later, it's not a floodplain anymore. I still pay flood insurance, so I'm not getting this whole concept. And I would certainly like to voice my disapproval to what the planning of the redevelopment means to the people that live there and have lived there for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Joanne Grice.
My name is Joanne Grice. I live at 14108 Greenview Drive in Laurel. I have several questions. One of them is, for 27 years, I didn't live in a flood zone. Now, all of a sudden, a year ago, I'm in a flood zone. I want to know who, because we weren't notified of this. My mortgage company is the one that notified me of this. Never notified. I can't get flood insurance unless I have a special survey, which is going to cost me $1,000, and then the flood insurance on top. I also have a question about my house backs up to the federal land there, the preservation. What are they going to do with that? I mean, what are the plans that they're going to put anything? And then on the other side of that, WSSC is tearing up a road that most people didn't even know was there. It's been a lot of things that we haven't been notified of that I think, we should be. And every time it rains on the golf course, it floods. Every time. I mean, we have seen 17, because I live down near 17, that you can't even see the sidewalks. So I don't understand how they're going to build in this floodplain. So, like I say, a lot of questions, but the biggest one, why aren't we notified of this when they have things that are going on? Whose pocket is the money going into? Politicians or the developers? Very upset about it.
All right, Joanna, what we'll do is administration will respond to you in writing. That'll include what we've gone through on the flood, the designation of the floodplain. That's been an ongoing project for, I don't know, Marty's sitting over there, about 10 years. Okay. And we have a designated person now that working awful hard on the floodplain issue. As far as the planning components, I'm sure that they'll go ahead and incorporate some comments from Christine in that, okay?
Okay.
And then if you have any questions beyond that, feel free to call Mr. Fleming or call Christine, okay?
Okay.
But we'll get you an answer to those, so you've got something in hand.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Karen Smith. Thank you for your emails.
You're welcome. I would like to start by saying good evening to you.
State your name and address for the record.
I'm sorry. Karen Smith. I live at 9320 Creekview Drive in the beautiful community of Patuxent Glen. I just want to take the next few minutes to express a few of my thoughts about the possibility of the whole development thing in our backyard. I cut out a lot of this now that we're going to have a meeting with the developer next week.
Take a deep breath and go.
All right.
All right?
My husband Jim, and I moved into the Patuxent Glen community about 17 years ago, specifically because it is a quaint golf course community. And for our neighborhood, there's only one way in and one way out, which means you get to know your neighbors, who they are, what they drive, who walks, who rides bikes, etc. Not too long ago, my husband and I were sitting at the kitchen table, and I saw the most beautiful bird floating in the wind above the trees over our house. That bird was one of the bald eagles that live in the trees at our golf course. The first thing my husband said to me was, enjoy that view while it lasts, because if they build that development on our golf course, we won't be seeing the eagles anymore, or the deer, or any of the other wildlife that wander freely through our neighborhood. Which brings me to my next point. Actually, that will be covered at a meeting next week. In saying that, I want to take this opportunity to address the Patuxent Glen homeowners who are watching us on TV. Are we on TV tonight?
Yeah, you are.
Okay. Especially those who are opposed to the development, and ask that they please attend the meeting that the developer has graciously scheduled for us next Tuesday, January 16th at the Country Club, and that you attend all future council and planning commission meetings that have the proposed development of the Patuxent Greens Golf Course on their agendas. Even if you do not live directly on the golf course itself, this possible development will impact you and your families in more ways than one. And that's it for now. Questions?
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Karen. Kelsey, state your name and address for the record, please.
Kelsey Eustace, 14224 Greenview Drive. My husband and I bought our home a little over 2 years ago. First, I wanted to thank both the developer and the city for the notification and signage regarding the community feedback meeting next Tuesday. That sign is right where we come into our community, so all residents can see it, and I also received an email. So I wanted to thank you. I also wanted to thank the developer for having the meeting with the community and for requesting to postpone any possible action until after the community meeting so that the neighbors can have feedback. In addition, I am concerned about the loss of green space that this development is proposing. Even though it's proposing keeping green space, we will still be losing green space that the city enjoyed. I think it's a shame that we will be losing a golf course. I think in a perfect world, maybe Parks and Recreation of the city or the county would be able to maintain the golf course, but I don't know how feasible that is. Or another recreational, like a park. Secondly, and my concern is for safety. In attending these meetings, I have heard my neighbors who have lived in the community much longer than me talk about the history of the community and the flooding and the need for evacuation from the community at odd hours of the night. With only one way in and two ways out, the two ways out being right next to each other, I can only imagine how difficult it would be for everyone to evacuate, much less if there's additional houses built. Is that safe? And I know at the Planning Commission meeting, there was the possibility was discussed of a second entrance so that there would be a second way in and out, especially if evacuation was needed. And third, I'm very concerned about the floodplain and the possible flooding. If the land is moved, our current homes and properties going to be flooded that weren't flooded before. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wendy. State your name and address for the record, Wendy.
Right.
Thank you.
I'm Wendy Gagan, and I live at the end, 14103 Greenview Drive, and I live at the end of Greenview Drive at the cul-de-sac. My house is one of the original homes, like Carrie. I've lived there 30 years too, and my house fronts the golf course. It's right behind dreaded hole number 11, and what I really wanted to talk about tonight is the relationship between the community and the golf course, which was a country club, not a golf course. The original sales brochure, which I have, but I'm not giving up, was for a planned community, and it promotes the benefits of belonging to a country, and I'm quoting now, belonging to a country club development that offers value as well as the beauty of open spaces, greenery, wooded forests, and abundant wildlife. This is the concept we paid for when we purchased our homes and enjoyed this concept for many, many years. It's hard to understand how all this can be taken away from us now. As part of our purchase of our home, we were given a 1-year golf membership in the country club, and the initiation fee was waived. Some of us also paid $300 to purchase a transferability option, which means if I sold my house and I was in good standing with my golf membership, that the new purchaser could acquire my golf membership and pay no initiation fee. We also had reciprocal golfing relationships with Meadowbrook, which was the original golf course owner, with many golf courses that they also owned, not only, in the Baltimore, Washington area, but also even in places like Florida, and that was really cool. Now, our amenities in our membership in the country club, and I really want to emphasize, this was a family-friendly operation. It was designed so that you could have a family membership, and it gave you golf, the pool, the tennis courts, the basketball courts, and a cabana with a spa and a whirlpool. And it had an attendant on duty at all times. And there was a real restaurant called Courses there in the beginning too. And there was a happy hour with free hors d'oeuvres, and there was coffee given away in the mornings. I mean, it was all very nice. Now, I have another brochure. This is the original golf course brochure, and I'm quoting from it. Patuxent Greens is a country club more than a golf course. We offer a variety of leisure activities for the entire family. And that was why it was so successful for more than 15 years with the neighborhoods. And then when 4Golf purchased the course from Meadowbrook in 2005, things started to change. Actually, they put $5 million in improvements of the golf course, and that was very impressive. So impressive, in fact, that Golf Digest included Patuxent Greens Golf Course in its best to play listings for Maryland. And that's quite an achievement. The problem really hit us when the pool and the cabana and the tennis courts and basketball court were sold off to the city. And I don't know whether anybody realized that this was still part of our membership. Once we lost these other activities that were so family-friendly, and when Patuxent Greens Country Club, in effect, became just a golf club, membership declined. In fact, it was cheaper to play on a pay-as-you-go basis if you were a golfer than it was to have the membership anymore, because the fees increased a lot too. We had several, well, probably between 100 and 200 people, seniors, women, and men, before this happened, that were participating regularly as members with the golf club. The golf club was so prosperous that we used to complain that it was a cash cow for their other courses, you know, and eventually when they put the $5 million, you know, dollars of improvements on, we were thrilled. And it really did make a difference. The golf course is a beautiful golf course now. And one of the most impressive things about it is a walking golf course, which perhaps for people looking at profit isn't too great, but it's wonderful for golfers, and it's wonderful for exercise. Anyway, we lost the leagues, and we lost our regular groups, membership groups, when you know, the golf course's amenities that the families used were sold off, and it's made a great difference. I often think about the fact that, you know, it would be such a shame to get rid of this golf course, because I don't think there's an abundance of golf courses, and there certainly aren't many walking golf courses in PG County. And I often think about the fact that if Patuxent Greens could be run like Enterprise in Mitchellville, which Park and Planning owns, that's got reasonable fees, wonderful management, and wonderful maintenance. And, you know, they practically have waiting lists to play there. And the same thing would happen on this golf course if it wasn't for profit. You know, that's another whole issue. But anyway, that's mostly what I want to say. I'm utterly opposed to this too, for all kinds of reasons. I love living here. I love Laurel. I think Laurel's getting too big and too busy and too crowded and things like that, but that's for another time. Anyway, I'm looking forward to the meeting on Tuesday night where we can talk about some of these things with the quote developer. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. And we'll also, administration will send you, the mechanics of how the city ended up with the pool, I know we bought it. So I don't know what the arrangement was with the.
Well, they never told us until it was a fait complete. You know, that was the issue.
But again, we're going to take a look at that. We'll get you a response out, okay?
But it did make a difference.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I have signed up to speak on this agenda item. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Come forward, sir. State your name and address for the record.
My name is Jim Lawn. I also live on Greenview Drive. My wife spoke earlier. Everybody that's come up so far has been complaining about the fact that we're going to lose the golf course, and that's something that we really worry about. But we also want to talk about the 440 or so new homes that are going to be going there. We have a homeowners association where we are now. What are these people going to do? Are they going to have their own homeowners association? Are they going to be just like the quads that have no thing like that at all? They're just going to be throwing us to the wolves? My question is, are we paying all this money that we're paying for the homeowners association so other people are going to get the benefits? I would like to really know if they're going to have an issue down there where they're going to have their own association, or what the deal is going to be. And I know you don't know the answer, but this is just something that somebody may be able to tell us next week.
I think perhaps the applicant, when he meets with you, and his attorneys, when they meet with you coming up on the 16th, will be able to explain that, how that works.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other person wishing to speak? Okay, seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing at 7:44. At the request of the, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. President,
The public hearing is still open, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to ask, is there a direction on
State your name and
the-
address for the record again, Mr. Chair.
Sorry, Bill Shipp again for the applicant, O'Malley Miles. I don't know that we got a direction on the continuance date for the mayor and council's hearing. will that come later? Or?
Thank you, Mr. Ship. At the request of the chairman of the Planning Commission, council is deferring action to allow time for the developer to hold a community meeting. A third public hearing with possible action is scheduled for the mayor and city council meeting on Monday, January 22nd, 2018 at 7 p.m. And I'll just, Mr. Ship, that's a discussion you should have with the administration, okay? Okay, thank you all for coming. Yes, ma'am. Just,
Again, Tony Drake, I live on Creekview Drive. So does that mean the president's earlier statement that they would take that under advisement has now...
you heard me right, Tony, okay? It's under advisement.
Okay, but I'm just asking for clarification.
Yeah, because
you
normally
said
when we
now would be
continue,
the 22nd.
normally when we continue something, we'd say when the next public hearing will be. There'll be another public hearing with possible action. That doesn't mean it's mandatory action, okay? So I've taken under advisement what I've heard tonight.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I'm confused too, Tony.
Move to agenda item number 10, second public hearing with possible action on ordinance number 1925, an ordinance of the mayor and city council to approve the neo-traditional overlay conceptual site plan for the Flester property known as 7041 Contee Road, Laurel, Maryland, and providing for an effective date. Christian?
Good evening. Neo-traditional overlay application number 878 was filed on October 3rd, 2017 by Strip Matter Contee LLC 9102 Owens Drive, Manassas Park, Virginia 20111 for conceptual neo-traditional overlay approval for the Flester property located at 7041 Contee Road, proposed to develop a community of 180 townhouse dwelling units. On October 31st, 2017, a request asking for comments was sent to the Maryland State Highway Administration, Prince George's County Health Department, Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, Prince George's County Department of Public Works and Transportation, Washington Suburban Sanitarian Commission, Maryland Department of Planning and Prince George's County Public Schools. Responses were received from the following agencies on the following dates: Prince George's County Health Department Environmental Engineer Program, November 8th, 2017. WSSC on November 15th, 2017. State Highway Administration on November 29th, 2017. Prince George's County Public Schools on December 11th, 2017. All responses have been made part of the official record for this application. On October 31st, 2017, a request asking for comments was sent to the following City of Laurel departments: Public Works, Parks and Recreation, Police, and the Office of the Fire Marshal and Permit Services. Responses dated November 2nd, 2017 was received from the Parks and Recreation and the Police Department. On November 6, 2017, a response was received from the Fire Marshal. A response dated November 21st was received from the Department of Public Works. All responses were received and have made a part of the record. On November 14, 2017, a notice of the filing of the application was sent to all contiguous property owners. The applicant has returned all certified mailing receipts and are made a part of the file. The file contains a certification of publication verifying that this application and public hearing was advertised as required by law in the December 28, 2017 edition of the Prince George's Centennial. A memorandum from the City of Laurel Planning Commission to the Mayor and City Council dated December 18, 2017 reads as follows. At the regular meeting of the City of Laurel Planning Commission held on December 12, 2017, the following action was taken on the subject zoning application. On motion by Mr. Wilson, seconded by Mr. Kish, and carried on a roll call vote by all other members present, the Planning Commission recommended that the City of Laurel Mayor and City Council grant neo-traditional overlay application number 878 with conditions outlined in the technical staff report. That concludes the reading of the file, Mr. President.
Thank you, Christian. I'll open the public hearing at 7:50. I have no one signed up to speak. Is there anyone wishing to speak? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing at 7:50 and a half. What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. President, I move for approval of ordinance number 1925 as read into the record.
Thank you, Mr. Smalls. Do I have a second?
Mr. President, I second it.
Thank you, Mr. Sidnor. Any discussion?
I would like to thank the developer and the owner of that property for supplying the city with a regulation-sized ball field, which was very generous. It means a lot to me. I know it means a lot to our citizens with the for you providing that to us, and thank you.
Before I call for the vote, I'm a little confused now. Is that a ball field? It's not. No. Go ahead, Christian.
Good evening again. For the neo-traditional overlay application, it's just for the townhouse community. Part of the annexation agreement for the Flester and Kaufman properties, they will construct indeed an athletic field to the city, but for this application tonight is not an athletic field.
Excellent. Okay. That clarifies. Thank you. Any further discussion? Call roll, Ms. Brown.
Mr. Smalls?
I vote yes.
Mr. Sidnor?
Yes.
Mr. DeWalt?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
President Laz?
Yes. Thank you. Move to agenda item number 11. Second public hearing with possible action on ordinance number 1927, an ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of Laurel amending the code of the City of Laurel, Chapter 16, Taxation, to add Section 16-10, establishing an elderly and veteran real property tax credit program. I've read the title into the record for the second reading. I'll open the public hearing at 7:53. I have no one signed up to speak on this agenda item. Is there anyone wishing to speak? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing at 7:53 and a half. I'll entertain a motion.
And Mr. President, I vote yes to approve this motion.
Thank you, Mr. Sidnor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Nicholas. Any discussion?
I would like to discuss it.
Go ahead.
The part I read was 65 years old, which is more than acceptable. I know seniors can go from anywhere from 62 to 70, so that's the mid of the senior range. The one aspect of it that I don't like is the having to own your home for 40 years. I still would like to know the number of our seniors, and you have to have an assessed value of $350,000. And what that's going to encompass is you're going to get 10% of the city property tax imposed on the dwelling, which according to my estimates, and I'm not an expert on it, might be a couple $100. I don't know how many individuals fall into this category. It would be nice to know that, and it's a great program. I just wish more individuals would be able to take advantage of it.
Thank you, Mr. DeWalt. Michelle?
I just wanted to clarify that the maximum assessment is $350,000. You wouldn't have to have a house that was valued at $350,000. You could have a house that was valued at $200,000. 350 is the maximum.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Mm-hmm. Do you know how many people relatively would be able to get this tax credit yet?
we were, excuse me, we were manually trying to compile a list without putting out information that it had been passed, so as not to get involved in putting out information on an ordinance that hadn't yet been passed. We've accumulated a list based on personal knowledge of about 13 people. But, I mean, we're prepared, obviously we're prepared. If the ordinance is passed, then we would have to provide for the credits.
Is the 40 years owning your resident, is that our verbiage in there, is that some requirement by the state of Maryland?
That was based on the state enabling legislation. And the city council, or the city solicitor had verified, Ms. Ruff, when she was city solicitor, had verified that that was the state requirement, that we have to follow the state, that we can't change the number of years of ownership.
And the $350,000, the max, what sort of savings, tax credit would that be at the 350 mark? Do you know?
About $250.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Michelle. Any further discussion? Call roll, Ms. Rao.
Mr. Sidnor?
I vote yes.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
Mr. DeWalt?
Yes.
Mr. Smalls?
I vote yes.
President Les?
Yes. Move to agenda item number 12, second public hearing with possible action on ordinance number 1928. An ordinance of the mayor and city council of Laurel amending the code of the city of Laurel, chapter 16, taxation, to add section 16-11, establishing a public safety officer real property tax credit program. Read the title into the record for the second reading. I'll open the public hearing at 7:57. I have no one signed up to speak. Is there anyone wishing to speak? Yes, ma'am. Come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
This is on number 13?
This is number 12.
Oh, we're still on 12.
We'll come back to you at 13, okay? Okay. I have no one else signed up to speak. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President, I move for approval of ordinance number 1928 as read into the record.
Thank you, Mr. Smalls. Do I have a second?
A second, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Sidnor. Discussion.
I have a question.
Mr. DeWalt.
It describes what a public safety officer means. It says a firefighter, emergency medical technician, a correctional officer, police officer, or deputy sheriff who resides in the city of Laurel and is employed full-time by a public safety agency located within the corporate limits of the city of Laurel. We don't have deputy sheriffs or correctional officers that would be employed by a public safety agency located within the corporate limits of the city of Laurel. I was just wondering why that was in there.
Michelle?
I believe in our earlier discussion, again with Ms. Ruff, she just included the state language, just at any chance that there would ever be such an agency that would become located within the city limits. It's all encompassing rather than have to go back if anything would change. So it was just inclusive rather than exclusive.
Okay, I think it's a great program.
Thank you, Michelle. Any further discussion? Call roll, Ms. Rao.
Mr. Smalls?
I vote yes.
Mr. Sidnor?
Yes.
Mr. DeWalt?
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas?
Yes.
President Les?
Yes. Thank you. Move to agenda item number 13. Introduction and first public hearing on resolution number 1-18. A resolution of the mayor and city council to establish a citizens advisory committee for persons with disabilities. I've read the title into the record for the first reading. I've opened the public hearing at 8 o'clock. Your turn. Huh? 14. We'll come back to you. I have no one signed up to speak on this agenda item. Is there anyone wishing to speak? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing at 8 a.m. and a half. Read the title of the record for the first reading, and a second public hearing with possible action is scheduled for the mayor and city council meeting on Monday, January 22nd, 2018 at 7 p.m. Number 14, it's the last one, so you get up there. Okay, introduction and first public hearing on resolution number 2-18, a resolution of the mayor and city council of Laurel opposing the high-speed superconducting magnetic levitation system between Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, Maryland. I've read the title into the record for the first reading. I'll open the public hearing at 8:01. State your name and address for the record, and you have the podium.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President and members of the council. My name is Keisha Brown. I live at 6212 Westchester Park Drive in College Park, Maryland. I'm here in opposition, I suppose, of this resolution. I actually work for the company who's looking to bring this technology to Maryland. It's the Northeast Maglev. We are a Maryland-based company who is looking to bring Japanese technology here to have a train that goes from DC to Maryland in 15 minutes. And right now, it's being studied by the FRA. So in 2015, application was made by the state. President Obama granted maglev deployment grant program to Maryland, and we were able to begin the study of the feasibility of whether this train would be best in this area. And so it's about almost a 3-year process, and we're about a third of the way through, and we have therefore 2 more years sort of to go. And the whole process is really a conglomeration of federal laws known as NEPA that look through the impacts in the environment, in communities, noise, vibration. All of those things will be a part of the study that the Federal Railroad Administration and the Maryland Transit Administration are undertaking. And so I saw that the council was put forth this resolution, and I really wanted to come over and first introduce myself to you. I met some folks at a PGCMA meeting that was here, and hoping that this is the not the last, but the first opportunity to talk to you about the project, answer any questions you may have, and really just open up dialogue about the project.
Okay, let me do this, Keisha. Ms. Rowell, let's have a half-hour work session before the next meeting. And I'll invite you to come back and you can make a brief presentation. I will point out a couple of things to you. The mayor's already taken exception to this. You know that.
I've seen some comments in the paper, yes, sir.
Yeah, he sent a letter to the governor. I think the delegation has taken an objection the 21st. But again, I think if we have a work session, then we can talk about those things when you come back on the 22nd.
We would
6:30.
6:30 on the 22nd.
Yeah, and
here.
Yeah, it'll be a work
Okay.
session to discuss this issue.
We welcome that opportunity, and what would be the best method for me to send maybe some materials ahead of time and to the clerk?
Yeah,
Okay,
just send
I'll
it to the
connect.
clerk, and she'll make sure it gets to the council members.
Great. Are there any other questions that could answer in the meantime? Not?
What is your name again?
Keisha Brown, Kisha, no E.
And who do you specifically work for?
I work for the Northeast Maglev. So it's the company who is basically the project sponsor. and I'm their Director of Community and External Affairs.
And you're going to send your email and phone number and everything to our Ms. Rao?
Sure.
Thank you.
And so I gave actually my personal address when I put it into the record.
Yeah, I understand.
That was-
Just, if
okay.
you'll just touch base with Ms. Rao, and then if there's questions, it'll go through the council office and it'll come to you, okay?
Great.
Thank
you for your time this evening.
Thanks, Keisha. I'll close the public hearing at 8:05. There'll be a work session on this agenda item, January 22nd, 2018 at 6:30. And a second public hearing with possible action will be scheduled for the mayor and city council meeting on Monday, January 22nd at 7 p.m. Nothing else to come before the council? Meeting adjourned.